Let's talk about this. My body, my choice. This slogan was meant to empower millions of women to fight for the right to make decisions that affect their bodies.
And of course, it is primarily employed in the abortion debate. You know, this whole debate about whether abortion should be banned or not. So, on the one hand, you have these people saying, well, you know, when you get an abortion, you're technically killing someone. And killing is wrong. It's immoral. You should never kill in any circumstance. Violence is never the answer. Hang on, let me eat this steak now. But on the other hand, you have almost everyone else who's being honest about the fact that there are certain circumstances where they're actually okay with killing, even if it means killing another person. And of course, an unwanted pregnancy is being seen as just such a circumstance. Let's face it, when a person is pregnant, they have growing inside them a harmful, life-threatening parasitic organism that is sapping nutrients from their body as it gets bigger and bigger, leading to an array of potential health problems, possibly even death. So an abortion ban would be requiring them to go through all that trauma, discomfort, and disfigurement, enslaving them to labor out children that they don't want to have to labor out. And this is going to be at least part of why the pro-abortion person is going to feel completely justified in giving the finger to the anti-abortion person and telling them, hey, my body, my choice. Especially since the pro-abortion person realizes that unless the anti-abortion person is just dogmatically pacifistic, which typically doesn't happen, that anti-abortion person actually agrees that there are circumstances where lethal action may be justified. Did you see my gun collection of protection?
And of course, we can all agree that everyone deserves the right to treat their body as they see fit. But is there a line to be drawn somewhere? What happens when there's another body involved while deciding this?
He seems to be asking this question as though we haven't already gotten past it by the time we get to the conclusion, my body, my choice. Which, of course, we have. By the time we get to my body, my choice, that question has already been addressed. What happens when there's another body involved as it pertains to this particular conversation, or in other words, what happens when someone is pregnant is that a group of mostly patriarchal theocrats start trying to control what that pregnant person can or can't do with their own body, which leads to pro-choicers demanding freedom of choice over their own bodies, the whole my body, my choice thing. We've been over this.
Let's look at a few arguments put forward by the advocates of my body, my choice.
So it appears at this point in the video, instead of actually directly addressing the point of the argument, my body, my choice, he is going to go off on a red herring and start addressing some other arguments. Yep.
1. The fetus is just another part of the woman's body.
This, of course, is not the point being conveyed when someone says, my body, my choice. Okay, when they say, my body, my choice, they're literally talking about their own body. They want freedom of choice over their own body. And acting like you're addressing the my body, my choice argument by addressing this other argument instead would be a straw man fallacy. Or in other words, you'd be misrepresenting the point of the my body, my choice argument. That being established, I have to point out that based on what evidence is available to me, the argument that the fetus is just another part of the woman's body does not appear to be an actual argument being made by actual pro-choicers. There are those who accurately point out that a fetus is part of a pregnant person's body, sure, in the sense that it's literally inside her body and physically attached to her body until after it's born. But to put it the way the presenter has put it here, as though any of us are saying it's just another part of the body, is just simply not an accurate representation of that argument.
Now, if the fetus is part of the woman's body, like her hand or her eyeball, that would mean that a pregnant woman would have 4 eyes, 2 noses, 2 hearts, 2 brains, 20 fingers, and even 20 toes. But we know this isn't the case. So while the fetus does develop and grow in the woman's body, it cannot be reduced to a body part like an arm or a leg.
Nobody thinks this way, dude. Nobody thinks a fetus is like an arm or a leg. If they did, they'd be wrong, but pointing that out wouldn't be justifying the enslavement of pregnant people to labor out children they don't want to labor out. Nor would it be addressing the my body, my choice argument. So there really appears to be no good reason for this section of your video to even exist. You'll sometimes hear people talk about an unborn fetus like it's part of a pregnant person's body, but again, that's just because it's a part of her body in the sense that it's attached to and inside of it, not because they think it can be reduced to something like an arm or a leg. You're just misrepresenting things.
Some argue that the fetus is just a clump of cells that grow just like your nails or your hair.
Nah, I'm pretty sure that's not an argument that anyone's making. Good luck proving that it is.
So getting an abortion is kind of like getting a manicure or a haircut, right? Of course not. The baby in the womb...
He says the baby in the womb, but the image looks more like a representation of a non-sentient embryo at less than 8 weeks.
...is a completely new person with a unique DNA, its own organs and everything needed to distinguish it as a distinct human being.
Well, of course it's a distinct human being. I don't think anyone really needs that explained to them.
2. Woman's right to choose versus embryo's right to life. Everyone has the right to privacy and bodily integrity.
Actually, there's no evidence at all that the Bill of Rights or its corresponding amendments have anything at all to do with bestowing rights to the life-threatening unborn. In fact, fast forward to Amendment 13 and it tells us that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So, if we're going off of the rights in the Constitution, obviously we can't be enslaving pregnant people to labor out children that they don't want to labor out.
A woman's right to bodily autonomy cannot presume the right to kill an innocent life.
Actually, an unborn fetus doesn't even meet every definition of innocent, since it's not harmless and is in fact quite life-threatening to the host body.
For example, a landlord does not have the right to cause bodily harm on his tenants even if he owns the house they are living in.
False equivalence. When tenants live in a landlord's house, they are not occupying the landlord's body, sapping nutrients from them as they get bigger and bigger, leading to an array of potential health problems and possibly even death. And a landlord is not enslaved to labor out tenants that they don't want to labor out.
While it might seem like an act of slavery or misogyny to deny a woman the right to do whatever she feels like with her body, it is actually far from the truth. A woman has the freedom to drink as much as she wants. But what happens if she wants to get drunk and drive? Would that be okay? No, because there is a high possibility of getting into an accident and hurting or even killing someone.
Yeah, someone else that is not inside of her body.
A woman has the right to decide what to eat or drink, but it is considered irresponsible if she would intentionally take drugs or drink alcohol while pregnant.
That's another red herring fallacy. The question of what qualifies as responsible parenting is a separate debate, one that makes no sense in a situation where the pregnant person is actively trying to not be a parent,
as this would cause harm to the unborn child. While the woman has the right to choose and the choice is to be respected, if it involves another person, then their right to life would need to be of equal consideration.
He says as if it hasn't already been considered before. But of course, in reality, it's been considered to an extent that we've already had abortion bans in the past. Been there, done that. And now that the test results are in, we really don't have any solid substantive reasons to prioritize the life-threatening parasitic organism over the life and well-being of the host body.
And 3. Right to refuse or the violinist argument. While blood and organ donations are seen as very noble acts that saves lives, most of us would agree that it would be ridiculous to make it a mandatory procedure. So, why should a woman be forced to allow the unborn child to use her organs to survive? Well, the answer is simple.
Are you guys ready for it? He's about to explain why a woman should be forced to allow an unborn child to use her organs to survive.
Our dependency on another human being does not determine our dignity or our right to life.
The reason a woman should be forced to allow an unborn child to use her organs to survive is because our dependency does not determine our right to life? Wow. What a non sequitur. Let's face it, folks, that argument made no damn sense. The fact that our dependency does not determine our right to life in no way, shape, or form means that a woman should be forced to allow an unborn child to use her organs to survive. The conclusion just simply doesn't logically follow from the premise. But let's see if his explanation can clarify things and validate the point that he's trying to make.
Infants, disabled people, coma patients, the elderly, and so many others are dependent on others to care for them and help them survive. This dependency does not take away their right to life.
Well, of course dependency doesn't take away right to life. That's not an argument that works in favor of banning abortion, though. Man, it's like this guy is hanging off the side of a cliff and desperately grasping at straws to try and keep from falling. It's not working, though. You fucking fell, dude. You hit the ground and you went splat. Now you're all over the goddamn place, and boy is it one big fucking mess. You see, Mr. Unapologetic, the problem with this argument, or at least one of the many problems, is that it doesn't address people's reasons for getting an abortion, or their reasons for supporting the right to get an abortion. And the thing these reasons have in common is that they are about protecting the well-being of the host body against a threat to that well-being. It's not about the fact that the fetus or embryo is dependent.
Similarly, unborn children are not parasites. Parasites are completely different species from their host. An unborn child has its own unique DNA, but it is still the same species as the mother. The baby is not an organism draining the mother of her life and blood.
This is pretty similar to how he rebutted me in the comment section of his video after seeing my use of the word parasitic. And it's a fairly common rebuttal that I've sometimes gotten from others, but it also just so happens to be a straw man fallacy. Why? Because I never said nor implied that an unborn human is a literal parasite. I used the word parasitic, which is an adjective, not a noun. Or in other words, I'm using it as a description. Because an unborn human saps nutrients from the host body and can cause an array of potential health problems and possibly even death. This, of course, parallels with literal parasites, while not necessarily checking all the boxes to qualify as an actual literal parasite.
In fact, the woman's body is designed in such a way that her uterus is the only environment in which an unborn child can survive. The sole purpose of the womb is to nurture and carry a child to term.
You know, all this talk about the design of a woman's body and the purpose of her womb is not surprising to hear from a religious person, but those of us who aren't religious and don't subscribe to the intelligent design hypothesis recognize that evidently the ability of the uterus to function as a survivable environment in no way implies that it has any kind of purpose. It's not even self-sufficient at sustaining the life of an unborn human. It requires nutrients from the host body. That said, even if it were true that there was an intelligent design to the human body and a purpose of the womb, that wouldn't mean that we should be required to use the womb for that purpose if we don't want to.
So, do you still think that the my body, my choice argument is a good argument for abortion?
Strawman fallacy. God, look, the my body, my choice argument isn't an argument in favor of getting an abortion. It's pushback against the idea that abortion should be banned. It's not like when you ask someone why they're getting an abortion, they respond with, my body, my choice. It's a response to the people that want to make abortion illegal.